Good morning. All right. Well, I'm excited. We're back in the office. It's a little disastrous here.
Yeah.
It's a little disastrous. We've got boxes out there and dust out there, but we're moving in, and that's the big thing. We've been here since Monday. So we're back in the office, excited to be together again. We're going to be sending out the May schedule here soon.
Yes. So I've got a luxury home tour next week.
Okay.
And you are off May 18th.
Yes. So we're missing 2 weeks.
So we're missing 2 weeks in May.
All right.
Missing 2 weeks in May.
So we'll have to just make every minute worth it on the other weeks.
Yes.
There you go.
We'll go for like 3 hours on the other two, just to make up for the time, because you guys have to have all of the graphic goodness. The reports will still go out.
Yeah.
They'll create the content and push out the reports and the commentary and everything so that you have that. Yeah. But we're down to 2 weeks in May.
And we'll they're not 5 weeks in May. There's only 4.
I think there's only 4.
Yeah. Well, it's just a busy month anyway.
It is.
It's just, you guys are going to be busy with the holidays and with the graduate. I know I've got a kid graduating.
Oh, that's right.
We have the entire family coming in.
Oh my gosh. To the new house.
Yes.
Yes.
Brother, mom, uncle and aunt, new baby.
Wow.
The whole, So we're excited to have a house full.
That's great.
It gives you a reason.
I love it when my house is full.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we gotta get everything done, but we've got a great month in front of us. We've got a busy full month in front of us, busy for us too. So we'll pack every minute.
Yeah,
we always do. So, I was listening to a number of podcasts the other morning, and there's some stats that I'm going to share in the second half, talking about Gen Z, Gen A, the millennials, this massive group. We've got, interestingly enough, we've got more people now, again, immigrants moving into the United States. We've got this massive swell of population gain that's coming up. Oh, the video is not good. Let me know if anybody else is having any issues with the video. Thank you for letting us know, Gordon. But we got this major swell of demand, and the demand is not going away. So we're going to talk about some of those statistics, but it got me thinking that right now, especially in this changing market where we're coming up on a recession, we're trying to figure out what the messaging is. The video is choppy and it's lagging. I don't know what to do about that at this point.
Know
We've already started.
Yeah, I think we might just have to muster through it.
Yes. So, well, we're just going to keep going, because at this point it will be recorded. It looks great on this end. Hopefully the recording is crisp and you guys can watch that after the fact. But let's talk about what's happening, because there's a lot happening. And then I know that you're sending out your report. Yes. So if there's any fuzziness in the data itself, you guys will have that. I mean, we're connected right to the LAN. We shouldn't have any latency, but you'll have that. You'll have the slides. We'll be sending those out, and we put them in the aging night as well. So you guys, we're going to make this as easy as possible to get this information to you and for you to get it to your clients. So the quote today has to do with the fact that we've got this massive group of demand coming up. The biggest thing we've got an issue with right now is inventory. We've got immigrants coming back online and coming back to the United States. We have population is going to continue to be stronger, which is going to help us with inflation, is going to help us with our housing, all the things. And I was having a great conversation with Sheila Hatcher yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that of affordability. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the second half too, because as unaffordable as it might feel here, the United States is actually one of the most affordable countries on the planet. Is it? In housing.
Oh, wow.
And so when you think about the idea that we can get in housing relatively easy compared to Canada or Europe or Japan, then we have opportunity here. So that's where my quote stemmed and what I was thinking about this morning. So marketing is no longer about the stuff you make or sell, but the stories you tell. How are you engaging? How are you bringing in that demand? Because right now we know that the market is dropping, right? I know on the lending side, we're going from a $4 trillion to a $1.2 trillion market this year. That's 75% drop. That's a little bit of a drop.
Yeah.
When you have that kind of drop, you've got to get creative and gain market share. So it's not about what you sell or what you do or what you make. It's about the stories you tell. How are you gaining that relationship so that you can continue to be their support? So that's kind of where I'm started. I would say let's go ahead. I'll watch it on Facebook as well and see if there's not anything we can do on the.
Yeah, it is blurry. That is weird. And so we'll go ahead and hop into it. Hopefully the slides come through a little bit more clear for you guys. Sorry about the visual. We're not quite sure what's going on with that, but we're going to power through and get this thing going. And so we're going to go to screen. Your screens are reversed.
Row.
I'm going to do this. Share this slideshow. Goodness, everything wants to be difficult right now.
It's because we're back in the office after so long. It's all the technology is new.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. So this is for the week of April 19th through the 25th. This week was kind of interesting. We had Easter weekend a couple weekends ago.
Yes.
Then last weekend, we had a real big pop of activity. And we ended up seeing that new listings coming online jumped by like 37%. Showings jumped by 20%. Pendings jumped by 20% over Easter weekend. And Easter weekend was slower by about 10%.
Yes.
This last weekend wasn't quite as busy. And I've actually had a couple of different agents reach out to me and say, gosh, my showings really started to slow down.
Yeah.
And so we'll continue to monitor that going forward, see if there was a slowdown, because if you recall, this time 1 year ago, it was right after Easter weekend that the market really started to slow down. Yeah. And so is it showing? It's showing that one. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Stop share. Goodness gracious. We're going to get this figured out and get our lives together.
I was going to say next week it's going to be perfect, but we're not coming together next week.
No, we're not.
Yes.
That's the luxury home tour. There we go. I think that looks better.
I think it does.
And so looking at our strategy sheet for this last week, you can see that it's not quite as hot as what we're experiencing just the week before. And so I've read a couple of interesting studies. And as you guys know, I've been tracking this on a weekly basis now for about 3 years. The best weekend to list is that weekend directly following Easter, where we have the highest and best odds of selling. Yeah. And if we think back to 1 year ago, it was right after Easter weekend that the market really started to cool off when rates spiked up to 6.5%, 7%.
Right.
Were they at 7% last
Easter?
7.25%.
Well, they were working their way back up.
Okay. Yeah. So they were back high. And so last year, our selling season really was from January up until about Easter. This year, we saw our primary pickup after President's Day weekend.
Right.
And then we saw secondary pickup after Easter weekend, but then this weekend was a little bit slower overall. And so looking at our market metrics, our average daily active count is now over 4,000 available units for sale. And it's been a while since we saw over 4,000 units available for sale. So it's encouraging to see that we have now more inventory making its way to market. And if you follow along with my monthly reports that I put out, I do have projections out there that talk about when more inventory starts to come online. And we start to see more inventory towards the end of April. Then it continues to pick up in May. Okay. Then we've got all of the people that have kids that want to list their home for sale in June, July, August, and September. Yep. And so we end up seeing the highest levels of inventory. Inventory usually starts to grow from April through about middle of September. In the middle of September is when we have the most amount of available listings for sale in our marketplace. We put the most number of units under contract typically in May each year. And so going into the next couple of weeks, I'm expecting it to be busy, even though we have all of these holidays that are going on. And so I'm a bigger fan of April listings than I am of May listings, because this year in May, we've actually got Cinco de Mayo that falls on a Friday. And I did do some research around Cinco de Mayo and how much of the market that takes out over the weekend that we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. And it does. It does. It decreases the odds of selling by about 3%.
Okay.
And so it's not huge.
Yeah.
It's not huge.
Still, so it's all the drinkers got out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 3% of you are really handing it up over Cinco de Mayo weekend, and you're having your Coronas and your margaritas and you're going for it.
I want to be one of the three.
Oh, there you go. Tequila, right? Tequila makes everything better. So Cinco de Mayo does take an impact out of the marketplace. Then we have Mother's Day weekend on May 15th. I think I've been saying that it's been May 12th all along, but I don't know where I got that date from. Mother's Day is on May 15th.
Well, everybody knows it's on Sunday.
It's on Sunday. It's on Sunday, the second weekend. So the weekend directly following Cinco de Mayo. And Mother's Day weekend tends to take about 10% off the top for showing activity. Okay. So we see fewer units going under contract as we all celebrate Mother's Day. And then you've got all of the graduations that are going on in the middle of May. Yes. I've got my little guys graduating from preschool this year, and I've got that graduation in the middle of May. And so he's got a line in the ceremony. So
he's
opening up the ceremony. I just got that notice today, and we've got to practice his lines, which he is totally not going to be on board with. So we've got to incentivize him. Okay. It's probably going to be slime. That'll get him going.
No, really? Slime is still a thing?
Slime is still a thing. We're making slime this weekend.
Okay.
And so then we've got Memorial Weekend, and Memorial Weekend is really a challenging weekend where we end up seeing the market taper off by about 40 to 45% over Memorial Day weekend, because we're all at the pool, we're all out camping, we're all enjoying the mountains, getting out there and getting ready for summertime. Kids are out of school, so it's just everyone takes that weekend off. So as you're facing some of these holiday weekends, what I would advise you to do is you can't always choose not to list over a holiday weekend. And with so many distracting things that are happening in the month of May, rather than listing your home for sale on Wednesday or Thursday, maybe list it earlier in the week so you can try and get some of those weekday showings in there before you go under contract over the weekend. And so I would say list it on a Monday or a Tuesday instead of waiting until Wednesday or Thursday to bank on all of your weekend showings. But hopefully you can get some people in the house before the weekend ends up showing up.
Well, and plan it, right? So if Mother's Day's on a Sunday, you're probably going to have more activity on Friday and Saturday. If Cinco de Mayo's on a Friday, then you're probably going to have more activity on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then Memorial Day, just bring out the buyers, forget the sellers. Weekend.
Definitely. Yes. Great weekend for buyers. Great weekend for buyers. But overall, just last week, our average daily active count went up by 4.3%. New listings were down this last week by about 8.5%. We're putting up about 1,100 to 1,200 total new listings each week. Pending transactions were down week over week by about 5%. We're still down by about 32.4% from where we were 1 year ago for units going under contract, and closed transactions are off 30% from where we were 1 year ago. But pending transaction count down 5%. We're putting about 1,100 to 1,200 units under contract each week. So again, all the buyers have seen all of the stuff that's on the market. And it seems like it's kind of this no man's land where you're either under contract in the first weekend with a really desirable listing that's been pre-inspected, that's staged, that shows well, has great curb appeal, great photography on those properties. They're going under contract the first weekend. But those ones that are not, that aren't set up and staged well, that maybe have iPhone photos, are hanging out on the market for a little bit longer. And we're seeing those properties sit on the market for 3 or 4 weeks. And so it's kind of this no man's land. But overall, our predicted month supply of inventory still sitting at 0.8 months worth of inventory overall, signaling multiple offers, more likely in those inner landlocked ring suburbs than urban densely populated central Denver. And so also less than out in some of the outer ring suburbs, where you're going to find more of that new construction, like Sterling Ranch down in Wayfar, South Littleton, out into Parker, there's still more new construction, and out in Northern Aurora, where we have more new construction.
Completions is still going up. There's still more. It's just the pipeline is unpacking. Starts are still down. Permits are still down, but we've got a lot of inventory coming online.
Yes.
Yes.
Looking at the odds of selling, it decreased week over week by about 1.6%. So it's sitting at 65.1%. Overall, I'm happy with that number. The highest I'd ever measured that pre-COVID was about 61%. Then it went nuts after COVID when interest rates were down in the 2s and the 3s, and it really surged demand. But overall, for the month of April, historically, what I expect to see based off of 2013 through 2019 is about a 58.5% odds of selling. So we're up to 65.1% odds of selling. I'm thrilled with that number.
Fantastic.
I think that's great. We're so far from a market imbalance based off of what went under contract last week to create that magical 6-month supply of inventory where we would flip into a buyer's market. We would still need to have about 29,000 available units for sale. So we only have about 13.8% of a balanced market. I am not expecting there to be a ton of new inventory making its way to market as we get into June, July, August, and September. That's because we have interest rate gridlock right now, where so many people refinanced into the 2s and 3s in the last couple of years that people are happy with their low mortgage payments right now, and they don't want to move into a smaller house for more money. So I'm not expecting there to be a ton of new inventory that's going to make its way to market. What I'm seeing is people that are moving right now are people that have to move.
Yes, us too.
Birth, death, divorce, loss of job. Those are the people that are moving right now. A couple Wednesdays ago, and I've told you about this a couple of times, I had 5 different probate cases that I was dealing with. And so it's just Oh my gosh.
Not a good week.
No.
Not a good week.
No, it is challenging. And so I've already gone on my soapbox the last 2 meetings that we've had about don't do your own quick claim deeds, take it back to your title company or go through a real estate attorney in order to get that done. Looking at where we were for showings this last week, showings fell by about 3.2%, or we're looking at about 4.1 shows per listing. And so if you're not getting your 4.1 shows per property per week, that may be sign number 1 that you need to make a price reduction. People looked at more homes this week before putting them under contract. It actually jumped up to 14 or 15 showings before going under contract, where we had been hovering around 12 to 14 showings to go under contract.
Which is interesting because there's not a lot more inventory.
There's not.
They're just wanting to really be sure.
But they're definitely being more picky about what they're putting under contract.
Yes.
Buyers don't want projects right now. They're being much more discerning because they're at the top of their debt to income ratios. They don't have a lot of money left over after making the purchase to go through and renovate the house. So if you're walking in and there are lime green walls, you got an awkward floor plan, those homes are getting passed over in favor of the homes that are turnkey and updated and ready to go.
But I'll speak for the buyers. Those are great opportunities for buyers, right? Because they are going to sit on the market for a little bit longer. If the seller really is digging their heels in and they don't want to update the house, buyers get in there, put in an offer, do a renovation loan, get creative, do the seller concessions. I don't even know that I'd use seller concessions to buy the rate down right now, because we are absolutely heading into a recession where we know rates will come down, but use it to negotiate a lower price, seller paid closing costs, save your cash.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Save your cash right now. Looking at where we were for median days on market for units that went under contract. Last week, we went all the way down to 5. This week, we were sitting at 7 median days on market. So it popped up an extra 2 days. Now, again, it snowed a whole bunch on Saturday. And every weekend, I say a little prayer that we don't get snow on the weekends. I wasn't expecting as much snow.
I was not either.
Saturday. I was not real thrilled about it. And so again, when I woke up on Saturday morning to see how much snow there was and to see that it continued to snow throughout the day, not great for showing activity when we have snow on weekends.
It is great for pajama day though.
It was a pajama day. I made chili. I was in my pajamas all day long.
I stayed in mine too.
We did see that there was a slight increase in the number of price reductions last week. And so the number of homes that went under contract last week that had price decreases went from 20% up to 23.6% overall for the month of April. I'm satisfied with that number. Historically, we see about 21% making price reductions in the month of April. So that's right on pace with where we should be. Overall production was about 4.9%, or about $38,000 off of the original listing price. I get a lot of questions about how many price reductions did it take to get to that 38,000, and I have no way to measure how many price reductions were done on a property. I can only measure if one was done and how much it was.
And that looks like it's just going back to normal. So the idea that there are any price reductions really is just on that seller who's not willing to make the upgrades.
Yes.
Right. I mean, because any normal or any well-priced, well-staged home is going for more than asking.
Yes.
And quickly.
Yes.
So really, this is just more normalized.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Okay. This is right on pace with where we should be for about from data from 2013 through 2019. Looking at our strategy sheet for up to $500,000, this market didn't really cool down very much at all. It actually heated up just a little bit more for more showings and more shows per listing. Looking at where we were for our average daily active count, we had 815 units for sale headed into last weekend. That was up by 5%, but even though new listings were down by 11.3% over this last weekend, pending transactions fell from last week to this week by about 10.7%. But overall, our predicted month supply of inventory remains at 0.5 months worth of inventory, whereas it was 0.4 months worth of inventory last week. So again, multiple offers highly likely for under $500,000 right now. Looking at back on markets, those went up again this week for some reason. So that was up by about 4.2%. When I've reached out to clients, I've had a couple of people say, you know what, they just didn't turn in their earnest money. So we actually go back on market. And so they weren't falling apart at loan conditions deadline, but they were falling apart before they even hit the table.
Were they just shopping and looking at all those homes and put a different one under contract?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
That's interesting.
And so, but a couple of people saying that earnest money never dropped, and so they ended up going back active again. Looking at where we were for the odds of selling, it fell week over week by about 1.6%. We were looking at about a 75.4% odds of selling. We only have 8.3% of a balanced market here. We would need to be closer to about 10,000 available units for sale in this under $500,000 market to create a market in balance. We were looking at about 7.4 shows per property per week. And so we had a total of 6,000 showings that were set for homes that were under $500,000. And that only fell by about 2.1% week over week. So it didn't fall as much in this under $500,000 category. We were looking at about 16 showings to go under contract this last weekend. So a lot of people that were looking at properties, but not putting them under contract. And so it was kind of interesting to see what was the hesitation there this last week about this under $500,000 market. Median days on market for our pending transactions went from 5 to 6 median days on market. We looked at about 20% of those homes making price reductions, with 77.3% making no change to their price whatsoever. Average price reduction came down this week to about 4.7%. And so we were looking at about a $20,000 price reduction here for those homes that were under $500,000. 500 to $1 million is really the bulk of our overall market. This market cooled ever so slightly. You can see by that slight orange tint right there for our odds of selling. When we look at our strategy sheet week over week, whoops, one slide too far. Our average daily active count increased by about 4.3%. Again, I expect there to be more gains in average daily active inventory going forward as we go into about September. Pending transactions only fell by about 1.4% this last week. Back on markets were down by 18%. So transactions were actually stickier in this $500 to $1 million segment. Month supply of inventory sitting at 0.8 months worth of inventory overall. So no change there based off of data from last week. The odds of selling went down by about 1.7%. We were still sitting at about a 64.5% odds of selling. So I'm happy with that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a great number for April. We were looking at about 13.9% of balance in this market. We should have closer to about 17,000 total listings available for sale, whereas we only have about 2,300 available for sale in this $500 million segment. We're looking at about 3.6 shows per property per week with the 8,500 total showings that were set. That one only dropped off by about 3.6%, so not as much of a drop off there in the $500 to $1 million segment. Looking at fewer homes before going under contract than the under $500,000 segment, which is kind of interesting. We were looking at about 13 showings to go under contract for homes between 500 to $1 million. So if you've had 13 showings, no offers, maybe time to consider a price reduction. Median days on market went from 6 to 7 median days on market. We were at 11 over Easter weekend, so properties definitely hung out there for a little bit longer, but 7 median days on market for homes that were 500 to $1 million. 26.1% of them reduced their price, with 70.7% making no change to their price whatsoever. Production went up just a little bit this last weekend to 4.7% off of the original price, or about $35,000 off of that original listing price. Looking at homes between 1 to 1.5 million, again, it really shrinks down my inventory. When we start to get to this price range, that's only 7.6% of our overall inventory. We ended up seeing that this last week heated up in the over $1 million segment.
Okay, that's opposite what we talked about last week.
Opposite
of
what we talked about last week.
Yes.
And so in this market, the odds of selling actually increased pretty drastically. We did see that the month supply of inventory went from 1.2 months worth of inventory up to 1.3 months worth of inventory. Active inventory went up by about 6.1% with about 400 total units available for sale. Pending units fell by about 2.7%. We did see that there were some more expireds and withdrawn transactions last week, going in this $1.5 to $2 million mark. But the odds of selling increased up to 56.7%, which was up 2.4% from where we were 1 week ago. We're looking at about 14.4% of balance in this $1 to $1.5 million segment. We're looking at about 2.6 shows per property per week. That was down from 3.1 that we saw just the week before. So we had about 1,000 total showings that were set for $1 to $1.5 million. People were looking at about 15 homes before going under contract. So if you've had a total of 15 showings and no offers, you may need to consider a price reduction. Median days on market was 6.5 or 7 median days on market. So again, you're either under contract the first weekend or you're hanging out on the market for a while. You got to get it right the first time. It's really those first time buyers, the first time that people come and take a look. You have to be priced right, staged. You have to show beautifully in order to get it under contract in that first week. Looking here, we're looking at about 21.2% of the homes that went under contract last week made a price reduction. Average price reduction was about 6.5% or about $92,000, $93,000 off of the original listing price. Once you go over $1 million, you're making price adjustments that are six figures.
Yeah.
It's usually about $100,000 off of that original price.
That hurts my heart.
I know. They're big price reductions once you go over $1 million to get it down a searching tier. So we're looking at about 2.8% of our overall inventory for $1.5 to $2 million. Looking at this last week, again, this market really heated up. You can see that it turned red all the way across the bottom with these blue cells that are peaking in here. That's with more active inventory coming online in this market. So our coming soons were up 27.3% with 14 units coming soon. Average daily active count was up to 202, which was up 4.7%. But our pending transactions this last week jumped up to 21.4% more than what we saw the weekend directly following Easter, with 34 units going under contract in this market. New listings were also up. 43 new listings hit the market between 1.5 and 2 million. So it was up 30% over where we were last week. And our month supply of inventory dropped from 1.6 months worth of inventory down to 1.4 months worth of inventory. So really flying off the shelves in this market. The odds of selling increased week over week by 5%, up to 53.2% odds of selling.
They're trying to get in there before May.
They are.
You're listening.
I know. 11.4% of balance. So this market is even more upside down and more well insulated from some sort of market correction where we have significantly less than what we need to offset demand right now. Looking at shows per property per week, showings went up 40% week over week, up to 582 total showings that were set in this price range. So that means you were getting about 3 shows per property per week. We went from 2 to 3 shows per property per week.
That's
so interesting. Yeah. But they were looking at more properties. We're looking at about 17 showings to go under contract in this market. 4 median days on market for this price range. So we were back down to where we were in 2021 and 2022, just this last weekend, for 4 median days on market. Again, no man's land. You're either under contract the first weekend or you're hanging out on the market. Looking at where we were for price reductions, only 14.7% of those units that went under contract last week made a price reduction, and we were looking at about an 11.5% price reduction. So kind of big price reduction there. $244,000 off of their original price to get under contract.
That's a very, very small house, though.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that was aggressive. Those were really aggressive price reductions that we were looking at there. We're kind of getting lit up on the Q&A. I wonder if it's more feedback about what's happening. What percentage of listings are you seeing fall out of contract versus last year versus pre-COVID? So Beth Ann, usually I've been really struggling today.
You talk so fast, and when you trip, you just gotta go.
Yeah, I just completely flail all out. So we're seeing about 8 to 9% of a fallout rate right now.
I love it.
During COVID, the fallout rate during the time that we were in quarantine ended up spiking up to like 25%. Pre-COVID, from 2013 through 2019, the fallout rate was about 15%.
So we're still less, though.
So we're still less than what we had seen previously. So showing properties last weekend between 450 to 500 in Parker, Centennial, Aurora, Home Parker, 95 showings over the weekend and 13 offers. That's insane.
The demand is there. Yeah. We're seeing that.
Definitely down there at those lower price points for sure. I also saw a lot of showing activity on 2 Denver listings. I had one in Park Hill, 20-ish showings, and ended up with multiple offer over asking price. The other in Mayfair had 52 showings in 2.5 days and 10 over asking offers. That's really interesting. I'll be really interested to pull out the stats once we close out April. I'm going to try and get those out before next Friday for you guys so that you have all of that information about where we're seeing multiple offers and how far over asking price that we're going to. And so we'll take a peek at that. Wrote a cash offer, no loan, no appraisal, closing in 2 weeks, 10K over asking price. 460 in Centennial, 13 offers, and our offer was not accepted. Yikes. Okay. So usually what I had been seeing last month in terms of units going for over asking price was about 2 to 3% over asking price across Metro Denver. But if you're on the west side of I-25, especially getting into Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, Golden, you're looking at closer to 3 to 5% over asking price. Saturday is Derby Day. Afternoon parties will be happening with bourbon and ball. Perhaps this will also be a distraction. I would agree on that.
Derby Day is not on my calendar.
Derby Day is not on your calendar?
Is it on your calendar?
Yeah, I usually go to the Denver Derby Day. Mm-hmm.
I gotta put that on my, that's this weekend then.
Yes,
we're kicking off May even before May begins.
Well, we've got Cinco de Mayo, we've got Derby Day. I'm going to be recovering on Sunday.
Well, Derby Day is the weekend before though, right?
It's May 6th, isn't it? I think Derby Day is May 6th.
Okay, so not this Saturday, then next Saturday.
No, next Saturday. Are you seeing more contingency contracts? What are you seeing? I am not.
No, we're seeing some, but a lot of people are calling me about bridge loans, about buying before they sell, about how to secure financing, HELOCs. I mean, we're having all those conversations because the sellers don't want to be tied up. They really were like, okay, we'll take you as a backup, but we don't want to take your offer until you're under contract on your sale. Yeah, it's tough.
Yep. So I have a listing that won't be ready until mid-May. Would you wait to list until June 1st? No, I would still list it in May if you can, because more inventory, significantly more inventory usually comes online in June. I'm not expecting there to be as big of a gain in a new listing activity going into June this year as what we've seen in years past. But there will be more inventory that you'll be competing against come June 1st. So I would still encourage you to get it listed in May. Melissa saying that her Castle Pines property has been so slow and reduced by $30,000. I am seeing it slower on the south side of town, getting into Castle Rock, Elbert County, Larkspur, all at higher price points with new construction stuff that's going on down there.
So much
that those are slow price points.
So what's the strategy there? It's just to go low and let the market bring it back up again.
Yeah. You have to price under. Yeah. If you're priced at the same price as new construction, that's really hard because a lot of those people are trending towards that new construction. Had 2 buyers in a row terminate within 36 hours of going under contract on my listing. These buyers fought for it and then changed their minds when those write those backup offers. So just a piece of advice from Meredith. Erie seems to be incredibly slow, maybe due to how many new builds there are. I would agree with that. Anytime there's an element of new construction, you're going to find that it's slower with that resale unit. I had 4 offers, 3 over asking price, went with one $25,000 offer, health, safety, structure on inspection, then had a laundry list for inspection. Bummer. When you share your screen, you two are similar, that it's clear. Thank you for that. So hopefully we'll just get back to sharing more charts and graphs rather than you guys.
I did get a text from Peter. It's like, okay, the sound is working and the charts seem to be clear.
Yeah. We already answered that one. Let's see. Thank you. Slide not blurry, but we still see your next slides. Oh, that was back at 10:07. Yeah. So slides look clear, but we back to property lines and a lot of people do not like it. Oh, that's a bummer. So Central Park still hot for 500 to $1 million. Yes, we are still seeing that Central Park is really tight on inventory right now. In that 80238 zip code right now, you've got about 0.5 months worth of inventory. So you're expecting multiple offers there. Have you been following appraisals and have they been coming in low? That's a Nicole question.
We have not had a lot of appraisals coming in low. I was really, really worried about that at the beginning of the year because the prices fell off so much in the fourth quarter. We've had a few, I think 2 out of all of the appraisals that we've done, but less than I thought there would be.
Yeah. I'm getting some questions about wanting to talk about specific zip codes. I've already gone 5 minutes over my time, but I'm going to turn it over to Nicole. But I will be sending out the slide deck that does include a zip code analysis in both the attached and the detached reports that you guys can download. In the back of those reports, go into the zip code analysis and you can see how your particular zip code is doing.
Fantastic. All right. So, that's interesting. I don't know where the thing went. So we're going to share my screen and then I'll put it in presentation mode. But as a reminder, so we talked about this in the beginning, but we had a lot of people join us after the first couple of minutes. We know that our video is a little bit latent. And that's honestly, we're moving. We've got makeshift Wi-Fi. We've got makeshift offices. We got boxes out there. We were in my house last week. And then I think we were on video the week before. No, yeah, we were on video. Yeah. It's been a little intense and a little crazy, but we are back in our office. and we will have all of the technology dialed in the next time we meet. We're doing the best we can. And in fact, I think we're doing a pretty dang good job.
Considering my stuttering, we're doing great.
I will stutter with you.
Yeah. Awesome. Join me, won't you?
I will. I'll get that going. 100% I will. But as a reminder, we are not meeting next week.
Not next week.
We'll have the data reports. You'll be sending out your reports.
Yep.
I'll probably do a quick update on whatever's happening. Because next week we've got, what's happening next week? Next week, we've got the Fed meeting.
Yep.
Is happening next week. And then the week after that is CPI. So we've got 2 weeks of really big information. So we'll be definitely sending out some blurbs.
Yep.
If you're not on our market text, make sure to be on that. And we'll send that out in our email. So you'll be sending out the reports. We're not meeting next Thursday.
Not meeting next Thursday.
Then we are the following, and then we're off again on the 18th. I will be out of town 18th. So we've got 2 weeks where we're not going to meeting. So we'll pack in the content. We'll still be reaching out. I wanted to make sure to repeat that since a lot of people joined us after.
Yes. Thank you.
Right. So let's talk about some of the things that are going on, because certainly interest rates and the 10-year treasury yield have found their spot there. It's really hard to break above or break below right now. We're all waiting to see what the Fed does. As I mentioned, the Fed is meeting next week. We'll be talking and expecting a quarter-point rise on that. And if they do that and they give us some clue that they're not going to do it again, which again, we're hoping and expecting that as inflation is starting to slow down, as we are seeing that consumer spending is getting a little bit more picky, which we're seeing it in the housing too, right? So consumers are spending a little bit more picky. They're starting to spend a little less. People are talking about a recession. We have to know, and I'm going to show you some charts here in a minute. I haven't shared my slide deck yet, but we have to know that as the economy slows, we're walking into this recession with 1.6 jobs per unemployed person, even though we're having these massive layoffs. Last week, we talked about the fact that Best Buy and Walmart and Meta are still laying off, and a bunch of others. And even with those layoffs, we still have people right back getting jobs. So the people who are buying homes will more than likely still have incomes. We will see with the economy slowing down and inflation slowing down, we will see the 30-year fixed slow down and come down, and our interest rates will drop. We'll see more inventory, because you just talked about that.
Yes.
So we'll see more inventory. We'll have buyer opportunity with more inventory. We'll see the lower rates. We'll probably see more demand, which means our selling season could be extended. But if there's nothing really to buy, I don't know how extended it will be, but all of that will be a balance, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're walking into. So we have to stay super positive with all of this, because the news and the world will try to convince us that it's doom and gloom and it's recession and the economy is crashing. We have to know in our little piece of the world that we're finally coming out of the housing recession and back into lower interest rates, which is going to keep our business booming.
Yes.
Right. So guys, this is the time to continue to focus on that communication and be in front of our clients and stay relevant. The business is slowing down for everybody. What you're capturing in that business, I'm talking to some realtors, and they're crazy busy. They've had the best first quarter that they've had, right? It's about gaining market share, guys. It's about gaining market share, being strategic, and getting in front of this, not sitting on the sidelines worried about what the news is talking about.
Yes.
Right?
The news has not been kind.
News has not been kind. All right. I'm going to share. Let's see if I can do it better than you. The answer is no. The answer is no.
Your screens are backwards.
They are backwards. Huh. They are backwards. I think I'm doing the wrong slide like you did. I got to get over to Facebook. Do you have it open? All right.
It is open.
So, all right. See, this is where.
Yeah, it's showing the note, it's showing your slide deck going forward.
Okay, here we go. Let's try this and see if I can't do it different. All right. Here we go.
I woke up early today and had extra coffee. Like, things should be going better. Like, I'm not scrambling.
We were sitting here with 15 minutes to spare. I don't know what the hell. The more time we have, the worse it is. It's when we come running in and we're just like, everything's perfect. You know what, guys? I think we're doing pretty dang good. All right, here we go. So let's talk about what's happening this week. So what's moving the markets right now? Interestingly enough, it's still First Republic because they're trying to gain ground. They're trying to sell bonds. Them selling bonds at mass is affecting our bond prices, which is affecting our yields, our interest rates. So they're still moving the markets. It's really close to whether or not somebody is going to bail them out and buy them, or if they're going to go to the wayside. But right now, First Republic and just the trail of conversation and whether or not they can gain their footing again is moving our market. It was moving the markets pre-market opening this morning and causing our rates to tick back up again. We also got first estimate GDP coming out today. And so you can see for the last 3 quarters, it's been going down. It was expected over 2%. It dropped all the way to 1.1%. Guys, this is like a big part of the recession, 2 consecutive quarters of GDP decline. We're starting to see the GDP decline. The final numbers for first quarter aren't out yet, but a lot of people are talking about the fact that that recession is going to happen the second half of this year. Now, of course, there's a lot more factors that go into calling a recession these days. This isn't the only one, but we are seeing this. I don't want to say we should celebrate it, maybe not out loud, but internally do a little dance, because when recession happens, our interest rates will drop. We also saw initial jobless claims drop 16,000. Let me double click on that. That's backwards. We actually want jobless claims to tick up, which means that we're not seeing as much wage pressure, but we're not. We're seeing those people who are getting laid off are going right back and finding another job. Remember, there's 1.6 jobs per unemployed person. The other number that went down is continuing claims. So even the people that we're on and we're hanging out on are now getting off and getting a new job. So all of that is really just continuing to talk about the strength of the economy, despite the fact that people are getting more picky about what they're spending. Maybe they'll start spending a little less. When we see services slow down, that's really the headwind. Now we're heading into the recession when people aren't spending on services, because right now they'll buy less food to go fly somewhere. That's literally happening, right? Spending less on food and more on entertainment and travel. People are still doing that. So when we start to see the services slow down, we'll start to see that recession happening. So right now, the 10-year is just staying in its trend. It opened up this morning at 3.5%. It really can't break below or above, which is keeping our 30-year fixed. It ticked up this morning about more conversations on First Republic Bank trying to sell off their bonds portfolio. So we're sitting right in the mid 6s. Most people are buying down that rate. That mid 6s includes discount points. So I don't want you to think that, okay, well, that's the rate that my clients should be getting. A lot of times that mid 6s includes buying down the rate. And you've got to look at all of that. So we talk through all of those numbers with our clients. How much do you want to spend on buying down the rate? What does that look like? What's your monthly payment? What can you afford? Because we all know as we go into this recession, of course, you can't guarantee it. As we see rates finally breaking down below and into the 5s, we're going to have a sweep of a lot of people refinancing. And we do waive our lender fees for refinances. So we do all that to make sure that they get in there very quickly. Mortgage applications were actually up last week, 5%. The demand continues to be there. An interesting statistic in March, so now this is a couple of weeks dated, but in March, the FHA volume went up from 18 to 20%. And so that's a huge win for those first-time home buyers who are trying to get in. We're going to talk about the LLPAs just for a hot second at the very end of this. But I'm still going to argue that even with all the LLPA changes and the conventional changes where supposedly it's less costly for those lower credit scores to get into a conventional loan, FHA continues to be the solution. What we got to get over as listing agents and as sellers is FHA buyers are more challenging. Interestingly enough, an FHA loan is actually more lenient and easier to get. So if you want to guarantee that somebody's going to get to the closing table, it's probably with an FHA loan. Now, I get the fact that they have a lower credit score, but it's so much more lenient that you can have a lot of wiggle room and they don't require a credit supplement or a credit score check at the end. So somebody that's got a conventional loan could go do something really dumb right in the middle of buying a home, because you know that never happens, right? Did you really just pull up in a new car when we're shopping for homes? On an FHA, we don't have to pull credit again and we don't have to check. So that's a really good thing as well. It kind of protects you that the approval that you get at the time of sending out that lender letter is the approval you're going to get as long as the documentation matches. So really good information there. The purchase volume continues, and it continues because we have this massive generation swell. So the Generation Z and the millennials combined are a bigger number than Japan. So we have more people in our millennial group and our Generation Z than they have in the entire country of Japan.
Whoa.
And we have the Gen Z and the Gen A are bigger than the millennials. We have this massive swell of buyer demand that's not going to go away. So when we're talking about these first-time home buyers and getting our arms around this, Redfin put out a report, and we talked about this last week about the millennials surpassed 50%. And I got a kick out of this. I went back and it was an update on some of these same statistics that the Gen Z hit over 25%. Mm-hmm. So they're buying homes much sooner. I was like, okay, the adult Gen Z, you got to think my oldest son is the top of the Gen Z and he's 26. Mm-hmm. He just turned 26. I had to think about that. Mm-hmm. He's now at a certain age and you forget. I was like, fine. He's now. Yeah. So he owns a home, but he's at the top. So you got to think these are kids that have just graduated college. Yeah. 3 years ago. Now, granted, they became young adults when interest rates were super low, but 26% of the older Gen Z already own a home. You guys, this is a massive swing. Going back to the quote, it's about the stories that you tell. How are you connecting with these Gen Z? And then the Gen A behind them, which are way too young to communicate with. At this point, they're still children, but better have it on your radar. Interestingly enough, if you see where their uptick is, you can kind of see this red line right here. They're actually buying faster than their parents and their older brother and sister. It's only the baby boomers that bought at a younger age, which totally makes sense because many of them went right into trade school, got married, had children right away. It was just kind of the nature of that generation. And now as we get older, but they're going backwards. They're buying faster than their Gen X parents did. The opportunity to have conversation and share the story of wealth opportunity in real estate is massive, right? In fact, the 25 to 34-year-olds bought a third of the homes in 2022, and then followed by the 35 to 44-year-olds who bought 27% of them. That's massive.
That's wild.
Who are you marketing to? Who are you telling stories to? What is your client experience and your client journey? How are you sharing those things? Not just being that person who's a real estate agent, a lender, a title rep, but how are we sharing the stories of real generational wealth and opportunity? The ones that are listening are getting it and they're buying because we see that, right? Which is fantastic. Immigration, as I had mentioned earlier, is back on the rise. So not only do you have this massive swell of births that happened 33 years ago and even younger, but you also have immigration now picking back up again, because I know for a long time it was closed off. And then we had COVID, which obviously the pandemic kept people in their own countries. Now that's coming back in, which is also going to help with inflation and also going to help with our demand, which maybe or maybe not be a help because our inventory is the issue, right? Existing home sales were down nationwide. So NAR just put out this report this week, but I still look at that and we still sold on an annualized basis 4.4 million units. People are talking about it coming down, but that's still a really healthy number. And it really speaks less to the demand and more to the supply. In fact, Union came out saying the lack of housing inventory is a major constraint to rising sales. And we know that pending home sales are down and existing home sales are down, not because of a lack of want, but a lack of supply. And we're going to continue to see that. And thank goodness we're going to have some more supply later this year. Hopefully we'll give buyers a little bit more of an opportunity to have choices, but with lower interest rates, we're going to see more demand on those same choices. Here's a big double click on this. So when I started looking at this median home price, this is nationwide. I know this isn't Denver, but hang out with me just for a second here. We are one of the most affordable countries on the planet. We started talking about that in the beginning. If you compare us to Canada, you compare us to Japan, you compare us to Europe, you compare us to Australia, we are one of the least expensive or the most affordable countries. Now, Denver is not one of the least affordable, or should I say the least costly, most affordable. That's a backwards thing. Metros are right. Yeah, there it went. So when we look at the Denver market specifically, so this is where the stories get super important, because we have to lift up our jaw and realize that the millennials and the Generation Z are getting massive gifts with this movement of money, right? We already know that we've got the baby boomers who have a lot of money, and they're going to be shifting those funds over to their millennials and their Generation Z, their children, their grandchildren, and they're going to be able to help them buy a home, ideally in the area that they live in. So we are able to afford what that person is able to afford, but as a country, we're very affordable. Now, what this means is you have to connect and make relationships with those agents, both from the incoming side on less affordable areas like Chicago, San Francisco, New York, and then be able to trade, because there will be people that are moving to Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma for that opportunity. But the median price in the United States is $375,000. You only need to earn $107,000 a year to afford the median home here in the United States. You think 2 adults, that's not high, $107,000.
No.
So we talk about affordability all the time, but the right people are moving here because we're seeing the demand. You're seeing that we don't have enough inventory. You keep talking about it. I mean, months of it, we're down to 4 days in the upper end, right? So we're continuing to see the demand. It's just, who are you marketing to? I get it, compared to where we've been, it's less affordable, but we will lose some people. We will also gain people. As a country, we are very affordable in our housing. So Denver actually saw an uptick. So when we look at true appreciation, not the average, not the median, when we go back to CoreLogic, they're always going to be dated. So this is February data, so take it with a grain of salt. But we actually saw an uptick of 0.8%. So go Team Nicole. I think we're going to see a positive appreciation this year.
Not that I'm celebrating, but I think the market's going to be down. I don't like to be wrong.
We'll see. We're only February data.
Yeah,
but it already,
we'll
see. We already had an appreciation uptick, so that's fantastic news. The delinquencies dropped again. This report just came out this week. So FHFA delinquencies dropped to 0.62, really, really low. And this is just FHFA. So it's just those loans backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Here's an interesting statistic. The national delinquency rate dropped 53 points this last month in March, falling below 3% for the first time on record.
Wow.
So that's all the homes. You're talking about all the jumbo loans, the portfolio loans, the hard money, all the other loans outside of just conventional. Right now, your Govy, all the things. National delinquency rate dropped 53 basis points below 3% for the first time on record. You talk about a strong housing market, right? Anybody that wants to talk about it.
So if you have clients that are out there looking for foreclosures, short sales, and HUD homes, they're not going to find them.
They're not going to find them. And anybody that's sitting around waiting for prices to drop, they're not going to find that either.
They're not going to find that either.
No,
it's not happening.
You got to look for those homes that have been on the market for more than a weekend and take the opportunity that we were talking about, right? So just crafting the story, being able to communicate these facts specific to your market, your sphere, in a way that helps them get off the fence, helps them move into that home ownership and take advantage of the opportunity. Because I have talked about this bunch of times. When the interest rates drop, appreciation will pick up because we will see extended demand on limited supply. And when those prices go up, you want to be on this side of that, not the other, trying to fight for a home. Right?
Right.
Because we'll start to see those appreciation pick up. So gain the appreciation for yourself, not your seller. Now, listing agents, you have your own decision to make, but buyers agents help the buyers understand that right now, while interest rates are high, while demand is still strong, but will be stronger, to get in and then refinance later, because the housing market is extremely strong and inventory is not winding its way. What do we talk about? 99% of people are locked in below 6 and 85% of people are locked in below 5. And a big chunk are locked in below 4. We're not going to see the turnover.
No.
And we've got a bunch of new build construction completions continuing to increase, but permits and starts are decreasing, especially for single family homes. So that just goes to speak that they're not going to be the ones that are going to help our inventory. And then Colorado hit the bottom. I love this. We've been floating between position 2 and 3. So we hit the bottom. We have the least number of delinquencies nationwide. We are a very strong housing market.
Way to pay your mortgages, guys.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. So really quickly double clicking, there's still a ton of news and I don't want to spend a lot of time here. We did the Tuesday live on it. We did a video on it. I talked about it on Saturday. I blasted it out on social. Guys, I mean, there's all kinds of opinions going on. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Urban Institute just put out a whole report and I read that whole article talking about the fact that it's not really hurting people with great credit to offset bad credit. And other people will say, well, the administration really went the wrong way on this thing. And really the double click on this is the fact that the administration has never made such a significant change in the LLPA before. And now we've opened up the door to a political mess, right? Because remember we were talking about Mark Calabria all those years? Mm-hmm. It felt like all those years. That wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And now we're talking about Sandra Thompson. So we went from the Republican stance to the Democratic stance. And then next term, we'll talk about whoever holds the office. And they are now, because they serve at the pleasure of the president, now it's based on who's president, who they put in for the director of FHFA, and the kind of changes that they can make. That's what happened. That's what I'm most scared about, not the small change in the numbers. One of the big changes that was pushed off till August was this hit that's now going to come if your debt to income ratio is over 40%. Mm-hmm. Guys, it is time. That's going to be talked about in August. If you need to review your debt to income ratio and your credit, you need to do it sooner than later. If you've got buyers who are looking at buying in the summer or the fall, and that debt to income ratio change comes back online, you are going to wish that you had talked to them about it right now, right? Mm-hmm. Right now. Because if that comes back online and they have over a 40% debt to income ratio, their interest rate's going to get worse, which only makes their debt to income ratio higher. Mm-hmm. It makes no sense to me. But we published this grid showing that those who had above the 680 to 760 really are hitting the brunt of this. But do remember, and I know this is a lot of numbers, but as I look through this, the lower your credit score, the more it's going to cost you. This is not an interest rate adjustment. This is in the LLPAs, the loan level price adjustments. Think about it as if I was paying a discount point, that's where this would go. So I might pay 1% to get my rate better than it was before. So this is like where the discount points go into effect. Look down here. This is like for second homes and investments, 3.375 hit to the pricing on an investment and a second home. No wonder investments and second homes are so expensive. This is the grid. We will publish this as well so that you guys have it. I think we actually did this on Tuesday, but I'll make sure. So when you're talking about what's your rate, this is why the what's your rate doesn't exactly work, right? Because everybody's got a slightly different rate, but playing the game and trying to outsmart the grid, which we talked about the hack and putting less down to get a better pricing model than putting 20% down, also puts you into mortgage insurance. And the less you put down, you have to look at this grid going up. So it's a 12%. And this is the coverage requirement. Again, it's just like the LLPAs. This is the world the lenders live in, which then converts into dollars. But I'll tell you the difference between putting 5% down and 15% down with a really great credit score and an average home price is about $100 a month. And playing I'll put 5% down versus 15% down saves you about $40 a month. So you really want to know what your numbers are before you start trying to play with the numbers. All right, with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see if we have any questions. We're doing fantastic on time. You guys are rock stars. All right, this is you. Would you list a $1.1 million listing southeast of E470 on Memorial Day weekend?
No. I would not. Yes. I definitely would not, especially if you're down on that southeast portion of town, because there is more new construction at that price point, and you're going to be competing against all of those. And so I would not list that over Memorial weekend.
So with property taxes increasing 30 to 50%, are we qualifying current buyers using those new rates? And Stephen, that's a fantastic question. And we're not. We're qualifying them with the current published tax rate. So if they got their new notice and the title company has the new updated rates, we have to put those into the loans. But right now we're using based on the current, we go up to each county, we look at the tax rate and we qualify them for that. But obviously it's a conversation we're having that their mortgages are going to go up. All right. In my mind, the FHA appraisal and potential fixes are the bigger question mark on the FHA loan. Am I missing something there? It depends. Do you have a home that's habitable and marketable? Do you have a home that's got holes in the walls that a kid, think of a 3-year-old, really think like a 3-year-old, and you've nailed it. Is there something I can put in my mouth? Is there something I can touch and zap myself? Is there a hole I can slip through? Is there a crack I can stick my finger in, right? It seems silly, but that's the thing that the appraisers are looking for on an FHA. They're looking for, is it safe? Is it habitable? If you walk through your home and it's habitable and doesn't have exposed wirings or holes or a gap between the stairs and the house, you're going to be absolutely fine going FHA. It's very rare that we are surprised with appraisal notations on repairs needed. Usually we hear it before it even happens.
Can you repeat the number of delinquencies in Colorado? Was it 1.2%?
Yeah, it was super low. So we've got 1.8%.
1.8%.
Yes, of all the homes. And this is, remember, this is the homes that have a mortgage. 30%, 38% don't even have mortgages.
What is LLPA?
Loan level price adjustment. So it is, and we did a long video on this on Tuesday, as well as a write-up on Saturday. It's all the adjusters that go into an interest rate. It does not actually, it's not the rate itself, it's the adjusters that go into it.
Are you seeing more issues with appraisals coming in low with the increased number of seller concessions on competing properties?
We're not seeing a lot of low appraisals right now.
Are new home builder mortgage rate incentives affecting existing home sales? Any way to compete with those rates?
They're doing forward commitments, is where you can buy a bulk of loan volume and pre-buy it down. It's significant cost to the builder, but they're trying to get that buyer to walk through the door. And you can buy down a rate between a lender credit, a seller credit. We can negotiate something and get that rate lower. I'll argue that rates are going to go lower anyway. And so I would take seller credit and pay off all the closing costs.
Question about the odds of selling is that when I talk about that, is that the odds the home will sell in the first month or the first week? It's the first month that it's listed. And so I take a week's worth of data and I project it forward for a 30-day period of time. Let's see. I have a listing in Lowry priced at 1.1, getting very few showings. Any thoughts? That's interesting. I am not super familiar with Lowry. If you want to email me the zip code and the price range, I can go through and I can pull up showings for that area and see what the average shows per property per week are in that area. So shoot me an email. It's m.aller, A-L-L-E-R, at firstam.com. Shoot me an email and I'll look that up for you. What week in May is best to list, or should you wait until June? Do not wait until June. Get it listed in May.
Yes.
I would still encourage you to get it listed earlier. And so I would say probably that third week in May is the only one that we don't have any holidays.
Yikes.
And
well,
so,
yeah, a couple weeks.
Yeah. So I'd go that third week in May. Any issues with VA appraisals coming in?
We have not had any issues with VA appraisals. Not lately.
Would you also steer clear of listing the weekend after actual Memorial Day? We actually see a pop of activity that it happens. And so when we have one of those 3-day holiday weekends, we tend to get more activity the weekend before than the weekend after, but there's typically a pop of activity that would happen. Would you list a home in Platt Park second or third week of May in a price range of 2.2 million? Also, I need your email, please. So it's m.aller, A-L-L-E-R, at first, F-I-R-S-T-A-M, as in Mary.com. I would list that in the third weekend in May is when I would go for that one. Just because, again, avoiding all of those holiday weekends and graduations and everything else is what we're trying to avoid as we get listed in May.
Although the third weekend is when we've got our graduation. It doesn't matter.
It's probably the least of all the big factors.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, guys, we ran over. So there was plenty to talk about, and certainly a lot of conversations and a lot of questions. So thank you for being interactive. I always love when we have so many questions.
Lots of questions today.
Yes. And we will be around. Our team is working this weekend. I know, Megan, you will be around. You're all done with your vacations for a hot minute.
I'm done with my vacations for a hot minute.
So if you need anything at all, please reach out to us. Megan will be sending out her report here in just a little bit. I will be doing the same, sending out an email with a link back to our Agent Ignite Facebook group where you can download our slides and as well as get Megan's from her email.
Yep.
You guys, I hope you have a fantastic week and weekend. Please know that we are here to support you, and we hope to be able to see you at your closing tables. Nicole Rueth with Movement Mortgage.
And Megan Aller with First American Title. We'll see you guys next week, but the weekend after. Have a good one. Bye.